I actually just stumbled on that last night, which is really convenient because I wasn't sure what clip I would show, if any. That was really inspirational, really motivational. There are a lot of things he says that I really agree with. I think that in a lot of ways we've really downplayed what leadership is, what it means to teach others and to lead others. But on a really foundational level, there's some things that he says and that drive what he's saying that I really don't agree with. There's an omission in what he said that we have this great ability, this great power, this great influence to affect other people's lives. And he focuses a lot, actually exclusively, on our ability to make other people's lives better. I want to suggest, because it's what the passage that we're looking at today teaches, that it's not just our ability to make someone's life better that makes us a leader, that makes us a teacher, but that we are all constantly leading and teaching other people. And that it has very real and very significant implications. It's something that I have spent the last few years really processing through, because I'm a teacher in a school. As I was studying education, the passage that we were looking at today was really at the front of my mind, because I wasn't sure that I wanted to or that I should be a teacher because of what this passage presents. It's something that really weighed heavily on me. And that it wasn't until I really understood the last part of the passage that I really felt at peace and that I could stand where I am today with the confidence of Christ. As we're getting started, I want each of you to think about a favorite teacher, a coach. You probably have one or two that stand out to you. And I want you to just think about who that teacher or coach is and what it was that made them your favorite. Why they stood out to you in your mind. And Paul's going to read the passage that we'll be looking at today. It is Luke 6, 39 to 49. Go ahead, Paul.
And he also spoke a parable to them. A blind man cannot lead a blind man, can he? Will they both not fall into a pit? The pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone, after he has been fully trained, will be like his teacher. Why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, Brother, let me take out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take out the speck that is in your brother's eye. For there is no good tree that produces bad fruit, nor on the other hand a bad tree which produces good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they pick grapes from a briar bush. The good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth what is evil. For his mouth speaks from which that fills his heart. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not what I say? Everyone who comes to me and hears my words and acts on them, I will show you whom he is like. He is like a man building a house, who dug deep and laid a foundation on the rock. And when a flood occurred, the torrent burst against that house and could not shake it because it had been well built. But the one who has heard and has not acted accordingly is like a man built the house on the ground without any foundation. And the torrent burst against it, and immediately it collapsed, and the ruin of that house is great.
Let's pray as we get started. Father, it's hard for me to stand as teacher in a very visible position right now, knowing who I am and the issues that I have. But I pray for grace that only comes from you through Christ, that your word, that what you have to say to us would come through me this morning, that the preparation of my heart would be realized in the words that you give me. Amen. This is a difficult passage because, not because there's any lack of imagery. There's a lot of imagery in this passage. There's a lot to kind of get your mind focused on and grab these little parables. But what's easy to miss is that all of this is one parable. All of this is one passage. And it's hard to see it that way. We hear a lot of these passages. A lot of these passages are probably familiar, but you've heard them in isolation, kind of one at a time. But what I want to do is run down through this passage and show that all of this is really building one argument that Jesus is making. There's a general guiding principle that he teaches, and then he gives a specific application of it for what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. To help understand this, I want to look at the setting and what's going on in this situation right now. This is Jesus standing in a field speaking to a big crowd of people. If you back up in the passage in Luke 6, about 10 verses or so, it gives the setting, it gives the explanation. It says, "And he," and Jesus, "came down with them and stood on a level place with a great crowd of his disciples." We will make this section here. You will be the disciples. Okay? Now, you're probably looking at it and saying, well, there's more than 12 of them. Jesus had 12 disciples. You might have learned that little song in Sunday school that helps you remember all their names. But you're going to be the disciples, which are really people who are just following Jesus around, because that's really what disciple means. It means a student. And the other group of people here, there's a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem and the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon. Okay? So you're the great crowd of people who's come. You've heard that I will be standing in the humble position of Jesus today, because you've all come to, like, oh, Jesus is here. And you all came to hear him and to be healed of their diseases, and those who were troubled with unclean spirits were cured. And all the crowd sought to touch him, for power came out of him and healed them. So a great multitude of people from the surrounding area. Why have you come?
To be healed.
To be healed. Because you've heard Jesus is here, and you come because Jesus has something to offer. Right? He has something that's great. I need it. Disciples, why are you here? What? To learn. It's really significant, I think, in this passage that these are two different groups of people. The reason I think it's significant is because the very next verse says, "And he," and Jesus, "lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said,"